Content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is P. Fitz, and for the next hour, I will be reading from recent issues of the Jamestown Post-Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Final story. Ray Hall's book on Ralph Phillips' manhunt finished with help of late talk show host's children. An article by John Whitaker. For years, Ray Hall had conversations with listeners on his shows Both Sides Now and The Hall Closet on WJTN. Now, 15 years after the talk show host's passing, Hall's children, Tara Hall Mamoser and Tage Hall, have completed a previously unfinished manuscript their father had been working on before his passing. Killer on the Run not only tells the story of Ralph Phillips' 2006 escape and run from the law, but allowed a son and daughter to spend time with a project their father held dear. With the book being finished and laying our eyes on the final product was both satisfying and emotional moment for us, Hall and Moser told the Post-Journal this week. We didn't do this for any monetary gain, as the reward for us has been seeing this project that our dad began come to fruition. Compiling all the components has, in a sense, allowed us to have more conversations with our dad and has been invaluable. It has truly been a labor of love, and we know our parents would be proud. Set against the backdrop of rural Western New York in 2006, Killer on the Run takes readers into the fear, tension, and determination that gripped communities and law enforcement as Phillips evaded capture for many weeks. The novel brings to life the dramatic events that unfolded after Phillips escaped custody, sparking a massive multi-agency manhunt that would captivate the region and the rest of Western New York, or upstate New York. The book is currently available on Amazon. Manhunt for Phillips dominated the local news, including the Post-Journal and Hall's talk show, The Hall Closet. Hall eventually gained access to Phillips with in-person interviews and continuous correspondence, providing an exclusive, in-depth perspective on the chase. Our dad was a voracious reader and always enjoyed writing as well. Hall and Moser said throughout our lives he had always written poems, dabbled in some short stories, and had even written other long-form manuscripts that just never hit publication. He's always working on some kind of writing. Thus, we knew that Dad was in the process of writing his book on Ralph "Bucky" Phillips. We were certainly aware of the interviews and access that he had, that he was able to secure with Phillips, and were cognizant of the fact that the access Dad had was somewhat unique and not necessarily extended to many others. So when Dad had in-person interviews as well as written correspondence, it kind of seemed like a bit of a big deal with how big of a story this was, New York State, and especially our area. A look back at 2006. Through vivid storytelling and meticulous research, Hall reconstructs the timeline of events, offering readers an immersive look at the challenges faced by law enforcement, the resilience of local communities, and the psychological intensity of a fugitive on the run. The book also explores the human side of the story, those whose lives were forever changed by the ordeal. At the time of his escape, Phillips was serving a 90-day sentence for violating terms of his parole. He had been released in November of 2005 after a burglary conviction, but failed to report to his parole officer. So he was again arrested on January 6th. Phillips was being held in the Erie County jail for a parole violation before his April 2nd, 2006 escape, and was on the run until September 8th, 2006. Phillips escaped by cutting through the corrugated metal roof of the facility's kitchen using a can opener. He is believed to have stolen numerous vehicles and broken into several cabins across western New York and Warren County, PA, and McKean County. On June 10th, 2006, at around 1 a.m., State Trooper Sean Brown was shot in Veteran, New York, after seeing a Ford Mustang that had been reported stolen. As a trooper approached the vehicle, the driver, later identified as Bucky Phillips, shot at him and sped off. The officer was seriously injured with gunshot wounds to the abdomen. On June 27th, after reports of stolen vehicles and break-ins, police in Chautauqua County found an abandoned backpack containing items tied to Phillips and the .38 caliber gun he allegedly used in the June 10th incident. If you would like to hear the remainder of this tantalizing story, please contact the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 716-821-5555, and someone will gladly finish the story for you. This is a guest essay by Roland Kidder on the matter of people who are homeless. There have been several news articles recently about the problems faced by people who are homeless in Chautauqua County. Much of the news has been about where they are being housed, usually in older and underused hotels. Whether we like it or not, the provider of last resort is the county. That means county taxpayers are on the hook for paying for it. There is some state aid to assist, but the burden of addressing the problem falls on the county. Homelessness, of course, is a broad term. In some cases, people become homeless when they can't afford to pay their rent. However, in most cases, it is related to mental health or drug addiction issues. And this being the case, you can't effectively deal with homelessness without addressing the underlying problem. Just putting a roof over their head does not address underlying causes. In some ways, I think state government has exacerbated the problem. Back when I was a kid, there were institutional hospitals like Gowanda where mental health care and housing were provided for those who couldn't care for themselves. Now, in the name of democracy and the individual rights, most of the treatment for the mentally ill has been provided for those who couldn't care for themselves. Now, in the name of democracy, mentally ill has been deinstitutionalized. That may sound good, as there is now a better understanding of mental illness and new drugs have been developed to treat it. Yet, that does not mean that a person suffering from mental illness will, on their own, take their prescription drugs or take care of themselves. Often mental illness is accompanied by a belief that, well, I'm okay now, I don't need these drugs anymore. When that happens, those suffering can easily relapse and slide back, and they can be back on the street and homeless again. It can be a vicious cycle. Maybe we need to go back just a bit to deal with such problems institutionally. We are not benefiting the mentally ill when we put them in a position to fail. This may sound harsh and in the category of hard love, but to properly care for such people when they can't take care of themselves is a public obligation. If such action is taken, proper safeguards need to be in place, including the opinions of psychiatrists and other medical experts. Likely, a court order would also be required, especially if there is no family to request it. But to let people who are homeless and who no longer can care for themselves be caught up in an endless cycle of trying to live in camps, under bridges, or even in government-paid-for hotel room just seems wrong to me. When people can no longer take care of themselves, society has an obligation to provide a beneficial long-term solution to their plight. Roland Kidder is a Stowe resident. Strong songs. Randolph Mancey's Christian music go viral on TikTok and Spotify. An article by Sarah Holthouse. Randolph. Around 1 year ago, Randolph man David Bennett was woken in the middle of the night with a calling from God to write a song. It would not take long for that song to go viral on multiple platforms, including TikTok and Spotify. It was about August 4th, about 3:30 in the morning. God woke me up, and all I heard was, "It's time." And I had the lyrics on my lips when I woke up. "We march on," Bennett said. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll write a song, but I'm not a singer. So what do I do with a song? And God said, make it. Bennett's first song, March On to Mount Zion, was the first posted by him on TikTok, with Bennett writing the song and the vocal parts done through AI. He posted the song on September 4th of 2025. After he wrote and made it, with the beginning of the video including a script about creating the song and the song at the end. At that time, it was on normal TikTok, he said. But God told him to post the song on its own after that, which he did on September 10th. Later that day, a political figure was assassinated, and Bennett said a lot of people turned to his song, which led to it going viral, hitting 3.25 million views. It was put on Spotify after that, as a lot of people had asked for it to be there as well. Bennett said it means the world to him that so many people have found his music. It has impacted so many people, especially people from the MMA, Bennett said. It's weird to think a Christian song impacted people at the MMA in Las Vegas, but Gregory Rodriguez is, his name is RoboCop in the MMA, that's mixed martial arts, walked out to my song. Rodriguez was in a fight for about 3 minutes, throwing one punch to knock out his opponent, and then at the end, Bennett said, he turned and he said he wanted everyone to meet Jesus, his Lord and Savior. Bennett was also made a second song for Rodriguez to be used in his next upcoming fight in August. Bennett said he gets about 40 or 50 emails a day talking about how his music has changed someone's life or inspired them. It has also had an impact on a jiu-jitsu team, which Bennett said is the only Christian team using his music to walk out to their fights and promotional purposes as well. It's not just a song. There are multiple songs that have gone viral, Bennett said. We just hit over 400 million listens needed this Dave. The reason why I think people should be interested in listening is that it's not normal Christian music. It talks about my view on stuff. Bennett's song Blue Skies talks about depression, anxiety, talks about what happens when Bennett is awake at 3 a.m. and how he has to lean on God more than ever. Bennett said he believes his music is going viral because it being different from the normal hymns heard in church. March On to Mount Zion was a wake-up call, Bennett said. That was the first song that ever went viral. It was calling out the warriors of the Lamb, saying it's time to start doing stuff. A lot of people have been dormant or cowardly, and it's time to stand up and start talking about it again. Bennett's second viral song was Dear God, written when he was at a dark spot in his life. And Bennett said he made it in both a woman and a man's vocal. The male vocal exploded. And Bennett said the song focused on his own journey in getting worn down and needing Jesus, which he said a lot of people connected to and loved. Another song is called Rock Bottom. And Bennett said if Jesus calls his followers to build their lives on the rock, rock bottom is a good place to be. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Jamestown Post-Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. How Medicare Advantage plans handle claims. Question. My doctor just sent a bill for my last visit and a procedure they completed, but I don't think I should pay this much. How do I know what to pay? Answer. Whenever you go to see a doctor or are admitted to a hospital, your benefits are processed through your insurance carrier. The insurance carrier will either mail a Medicare summary notice, or MSN, or an explanation of benefits, EOB notice. This week, we will review how Medicare Advantage plans handle claims and notify you of the coverage status. Last week we covered the original Medicare, how original Medicare handles your claims. Like original Medicare, Medicare Advantage plans receive claims from your physicians, providers, hospitals, whenever you access health care. It is also important to remember that if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, your explanation of benefits would come from your provider, who you should not receive, and you should not receive a Medicare summary notice. The claims department of your Medicare Advantage plan processes the claims to determine the amount the insurance company will pay compared to the amount the provider billed. Most Medicare Advantage plans have a copay for most procedures, which is a flat rate that you would owe. The cost could be $5 for an office visit, $55 for an x-ray, $1,800 for a hospital stay. Some Medicare Advantage plans use a coinsurance rate, which is usually a percentage of, say, 20 or 40% of the approved cost. The words in the sentence is approved cost. When your visit or procedure has been processed, your Medicare Advantage plan will mail you an explanation of benefit statement for each claim. Very often their EOBs contain multiple claims in the same mailing. Medicare Advantage plans tend to process claims and mail you a statement as soon as they are processed, unlike Medicare, which takes longer, it's up to 6 months. Last week we talked about how a physician bills $120 for an office visit with a Medicare Advantage plan. That still happens, but let's say your copay is $5 for that visit. The EOB you receive will reflect this cost. The remainder is not necessarily paid by your insurance because Medicare Advantage plan has negotiated a lower rate of pay for that procedure or visit. But that doesn't impact your cost share. The provider has agreed to that lower rate of payment when they sign the contract with Medicare Advantage. If your plan is a PPO or plan, you may be seeing out-of-network or providers, and this would normally be billed at a co-insurance rate. So a percentage, for example, let's say 30%. Out-of-network, you're going to pay more because they haven't agreed to the contract or that service with the Medicare Advantage or Medicare plan. That's all, basically. If you would like to hear the remainder of the article, please contact NFRRS at 716-821-5555. Evidence hearing to be held in 2024 city murder case by Gregory Bacon. The trial of a Buffalo man who has been charged in a 2024 murder in Jamestown is slowly progressing. 2 years ago, Darius Cadenhead was indicted by a grand jury and arraigned in Chautauqua County Court on a charge of second-degree murder arising from the shooting death of 28-year-old Marlon Clay, which occurred on January 22nd of 2024 at the Parkview Apartments on 4th Street in Jamestown City. Clay, who was a Buffalo resident, was shot in the back of the head, suggesting it was an execution-style homicide. Cadenhead was on parole when he was identified as a suspect. Jamestown police went to his listed parole residence in Buffalo as part of the investigation. According to Chautauqua County District Attorney Jason Schmidt, Jamestown detectives went to the apartment building, knocked on the apartment door, but Cadenhead wouldn't come out. The police, instead of leaving, acted like they were going to leave, but instead just staked out the area, and eventually Darius came out. Schmidt said during a recent interview, as soon as he comes out of the apartment in the hallway, he was taken into custody. It was Jamestown detectives with the assistance of Buffalo PD because we were in their jurisdiction in Buffalo. When Cadenhead was taken into custody, he allegedly had in his possession a key fob for Parkview Apartments. In his possession he had a handgun, a key fob for the Parkview Apartments, and a cell phone. Those items were taken as evidence. Because Cadenhead was accused of having a handgun, the Erie County District Attorney's Office charged him with possession of a loaded weapon. The gun charge kept Cadenhead behind bars as Chautauqua County continued with its investigation before a grand jury indictment was completed. With the Erie County arrest, Cadenhead's attorneys sought to suppress all the evidence seized, arguing that police needed a warrant to get into the building. The judge in Erie County ruled in favor of the defense. The judge, felt that there was probable cause to arrest Darius, but nevertheless, they were in a building in which he had a right of privacy, and therefore the police really needed some type of permission to be in there in order to have taken him into custody. Once that ruling was made, the Erie County District Attorney's Office appealed the decision 2 weeks ago. The appellate division refers the order made by the Erie County judge. They said there was sufficient evidence for there to be probable cause to arrest Darius. So when the police took him into custody and seized the evidence, they did have probable cause, Schmidt said. Schmidt added that the appellate division also ruled that the area where Kincaid was taken into custody was a common area. So there was nothing wrong with that, with what they did, basically. Meanwhile, Schmidt said the defense has stated they intend to go to Court of Appeals regarding the appellate division ruling. While that case continues, Schmidt said the Chautauqua County, they are moving forward with their own trial. Schmidt said it appears the gun that was allegedly possessed by Cadenhead is not the same weapon that was used in the January 22nd murder. So he had no plans to use that in Chautauqua County's trial. However, the key fob that was allegedly found in Cadenhead's possession is a key piece of evidence, and Schmidt wants to be able to use that in the murder trial. According to Schmidt, a suppression hearing will take place in September regarding the key fob, since the ruling by the Erie County judge has no bearing in Chautauqua County's case. He said the case could be ready by January. However, if the appellate division's ruling is appealed, it could delay Cadenhead's trial in Chautauqua County. City man charged with selling cocaine in Sugar Grove by John Whitaker. A Jamestown man was taken to the Warren County Jail after being charged with selling cocaine in the Sugar Grove area. Trey L. Frank, 31, was charged Thursday with 3 counts of felony manufacture, delivery, or possession with intent to manufacture or deliver, 3 counts of third-degree felony criminal use of a communication facility, 1 count of first-degree felony dealing in proceeds of unlawful activities, intent to promote, 3 counts of misdemeanor intentional possession of a controlled substance by a person not registered. Person not registered, and 3 counts of use or possession of a drug paraphernalia after allegedly selling cocaine to a confidential informant in June and July. Frank was arraigned Friday by Magisterial District Court Judge Raymond Zadanek, who set bail at $50,000 cash. Frank has yet to post bail according to online court docket information. According to the affidavit, probable cause, a Youngsville police officer who was affiliated with the State Attorney General's Office Bureau of Narcotics Investigations Task Force was informed by an individual that they knew of someone distributing cocaine in Warren County. The individual agreed to cooperate with law enforcement by taking part in a controlled purchases from Frank as a confidential informant. In June, the informant showed the officer electronic messages from a messenger phone application with Frank that were allegedly consistent with communications about controlled substances. A controlled purchase was arranged and a surveillance set up at a predetermined location. The defendant was observed at this location and met with the CI informant, where he provided them with approximately 4 grams of cocaine in a plastic baggie. The affidavit states another controlled purchase was arranged in July of 2026 for another 4 grams of cocaine in a similar plastic bag. The final purchase came on the day of the arrest. On July 30th, 2026, another controlled purchase was conducted, resulting in the arrest of the defendant, the affidavit states. The defendant did communicate with another and then arrived to a location, provided 7 grams of cocaine. The defendant was taken into custody and was found in possession of pre-recorded U.S. currency that law enforcement personnel provided to the confidential informant. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Jamestown Post-Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Kaleida Health becomes passive parent of Brooks, TLC. Kaleida has become the sole member and passive parent of Brooks TLC Hospital System Incorporated in Dunkirk and Bertrand Chaffee Hospital. The passive parent model allows Brooks TLC Hospital and Bertrand Chaffee to retain oversight and control of their day-to-day operations, finances, and services. Kaleida Health will offer administrative and financial guidance, support key service lines, and help guide policies and strategic direction of the hospitals. This transition will help create scale, efficiencies, and sustainability for both hospitals. The alignment with Kaleida is a strategic and proactive initiative that continues our efforts to secure and enhance health care for Chautauqua County residents well into the future, said Ken Morris, president of Brooks TLC Hospital. Bertrand Chaffee Hospital and Brooks and the future Northern Chautauqua Hospital will also have greater coordination of care with Erie County Medical Center corporations, which works closely with Kaleida Health. Centers of Excellence in Behavioral Health, Transplantation, along with adult level 1 trauma care. As part of this passive parent model, the Brooks Hospital and Bertrand Chaffee Hospital boards will consist of Kaleida Health's Chief Operating Officer, Kelly Corby, Chief Financial Officer, Hugh Chisholm, and Executive Vice President of Strategy and Partnerships, Matthew Drake. We want to thank the outgoing Brooks TLC Hospital and Bertrand Chaffee Hospital boards of directors for their enthusiastic support, partnership, and collaboration throughout the process, said Don Boyd, President and CEO of Kaleida Health. The board's steadfast advocacy vision for the future of healthcare in our region and shared commitment to continued access to high-quality care have been instrumental in moving these transitions forward, making them a reality. The outgoing boards will transition from their roles as part of the integration process, making the culmination of their dedicated service and leadership during a pivotal time for both hospitals. This model maintains the legacy and unique community identity of Brooks Hospital while supporting system-wide alignment, standardization, growth, and investment in our community healthcare needs, said outgoing Brooks Board Chair Christopher Lansky. Just as important, we can collaborate and enhance care locally while improving access to Kaleida Health's award-winning programs and services. This is another great win for the community. We remain fully committed to preserving healthcare in our region and engaging the community in support of the new hospital and reuse of the current hospital campus. If you would like to hear the remainder of this article, please contact Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 716-821-5555, and someone will gladly finish the article for you. Appeal regarding dismissed Silver Creek murder charge set by Gregory Bacon. The Chautauqua County District Attorney's Office will soon be in a state court arguing to have a murder charge reinstated against a Silver Creek mother. The appeal for 37-year-old Ashley Bertino is scheduled for September 16th in the 4th Department Appellate Division Court of Appeals. Bertino's 12-year-old daughter, Maya Smith, died April 29th of 2024 from diabetic ketoacidosis, commonly referred to as untreated diabetes. Prosecutors believe Maya's life could have been spared if she was given basic medical care. They accused Bertino of having a depraved indifference to human life and charged her with second-degree murder. She was also charged with second-degree manslaughter and 3 counts of endangering the welfare of a child. Bertino, who is being represented by Chautauqua County Public Defender's Office, challenged the validity of the second-degree murder charge against Bertino and was successful, with Judge David Foley dismissing the charge. Following Foley's ruling, Schmidt filed for an appeal to get the murder charge reinstated. Once the hearing takes place, Schmidt said, typically a decision will come a few weeks later. We're hoping we'll have closure on that issue, he said. Should the appellate division keep the second-degree murder charge dismissed, Schmidt said they will still move forward with a trial for second-degree manslaughter. There will be a trial no matter what. It just depends on what charge, he said. At this point, Schmidt said the trial could take place in the first quarter of 2027. According to Schmidt, a conviction of second-degree murder can range from 25 years to life, while manslaughter conviction typically will be between 5 and 15 years and could be as little as 2 1/3 to 7 years. 5 highlights beyond the headlines for this week's Lucille Ball Comedy Festival. Everyone knows that Bert Kreischer, Jerry Seinfeld, and Seth Meyers are headlining this year's Lucille Ball Comedy Festival. What hasn't received as much attention is a full schedule of comedy taking place over the course of 4 days in downtown Jamestown that includes the annual stand-up showcase, comedy late-night shows, festival-exclusive National Comedy Center programs, and archive experiences, Lucille Ball fan experiences, and entertainment throughout the city. For 35 years, the Lucille Ball Comedy Festival has brought people together through laughter while honoring Lucille Ball's extraordinary legacy in her hometown of Jamestown, said Journey Gunderson, National Comedy Center Executive Director. The milestone year celebrates not only comedy's history, but the incredible community that has made Jamestown a destination for comedy fans from across the country. We look forward to welcoming visitors for an unforgettable weekend of live comedy, discovery, and celebration. You can find out about times, prices, visiting tinyurl.com. Here are 5 things you may not know are taking place beyond the headliners at this year's festival in no particular order. You can grab a copy of Funny Stuff, How Comedy Shaped American History. That's a book that has come out. Funny Stuff, How Comedy Shaped American History. Funny stuff. Okay, that's a repeat of that. Sorry. Is a collaboration between the National Comedy Center and the Smithsonian Institute, edited by Laura LaPlaca, founding director of the National Comedy Center's archive, and Ryan Lindeman, curator of entertainment at the Smithsonian National Museum of American History. The book takes readers behind the scenes to uncover the stories behind American heirlooms like Groucho Marx's tailcoat, George Carlin's joke files, Carol Burnett's Went with the Wind dress, Johnny Carson's monologues, and the very first Saturday Night Live script, alongside materials from cultural touchstones like The Simpsons, The Muppet Show, In Living Color, All in the Family, and I Love Lucy, with a foreword in the book by comedy legend Mel Brooks. This dynamic work offers pop culture aficionados, history lovers, and comedy nerds alike a new perspective on America's past and who we are as a nation through our comedy. One of the things that makes this year feel even more special is that it is the first festival since we came out with the book in partnership with the Smithsonian, which feels appropriate as we're looking at the celebration of America 250, Gunderson said. Our role as a national comedy institution is to reflect on how comedy has shaped that very same history and that very same time period. We're actually doing that with the published book in partnership with the most respected museum institutions in the world. Live it up with laughter. Casual comedy fans may not recognize Carol Leifer's name, but you probably recognize her work. In addition to a career as a stand-up comedian, Leifer is an Emmy Award-winning scriptwriter for her work on The Larry Sanders Show, Seinfeld, and the 82nd and 84th Academy Awards. She performed stand-up comedy last night with David Letterman, on Late Night with David Letterman 25 times, while also appearing on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, Dr. Katz, Politically Incorrect, Hollywood Squares, Late Night with Conan O'Brien, and The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, while also appearing as the opening act for Jerry Seinfeld and Frank Sinatra. Leifer has written for Saturday Night Live, All Right Already, 1997 Warner Brothers sitcom, on which she also starred, The Ellen Show, The Seinfeld, where she wrote notable episodes like The Lip Reader, The Hamptons, The Secretary, The Beard, The Understudy, and The Rye. Conversation with Carol Leifer takes place at 2 p.m. Thursday, August 6th, in the Comedy Karaoke Lounge at the National Comedy Center. Friday Laughs. Friday night brings 4 stand-up comedy stages throughout the city. Gina Brillon, an American's Got Talent finalist, seen on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Late Night with Seth Meyers, and The View. Ian Lara, who has been featured on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, HBO Max, and Comedy Central. Peter Ravello, who recently made his network television debut on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And Nick Thune, 10-time guest on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, guest who has also filmed Netflix and Amazon comedy specials. Emmy Blotnick, who is also part of the In Conversation with Carol Leifer event, has been a writer for The Late Show and Stephen Colbert. FX's English teacher Laura and Ravello also appear in the comedy late night shows during the festival. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Jamestown Post-Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. To hear the remainder of this comedy festival article, contact the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 716-821-5555, and someone will gladly finish the article for you. Electrovaya announces energy storage system to be built in Ellicott by John Whitaker. The newest offering from Electrovaya's Ellicott manufacturing facility has been announced. The Elva Pulse 1500 is a high-power energy storage platform for data center and other power applications that offers 3 megawatt hours of energy with up to 7 megawatts of continuous power for demanding data center, artificial intelligence infrastructure, and other power applications. Initial deliveries are targeted to begin in the second quarter of 2027 from Electrovaya's Ellicott facility. The new development will support 48 East investment tax credit eligibility, a technology neutral federal tax incentive providing a base credit of 6% or a boosted rate of 30% for zero emission power generation in energy storage facilities. It was created by the Inflation Reduction Act and applies to property placed in service after December 31, 2024, replacing the older Section 48 and energy credit. Okay. Electrovaya officials have discussed their plans to enter the battery energy storage system market in recent investor analyst conference calls, but it wasn't expected to happen this quickly. The International Energy Agency projects data center power demand fueled by the demands of artificial intelligence will more than double within the next 4 years. AI workloads draw power unevenly, with frequent large surges that put facility uptime at risk. Meeting the challenge requires storage designed to deliver large bursts of power on demand. The EVA Pulse 1500 is the first product introduced under Electrovaya's. The product leverages the proprietary ceramic separator design underpinning Electrovaya's Infinity battery technology, which has been validated across more than 30,000 battery systems operating in demanding industrial environments. The Elva Pulse family of energy storage products is being developed for applications where enhanced safety, rapid power delivery, frequent cycling, and long operating life are essential, including AI and data center infrastructure, resilient microgrids, industrial power management, critical backup power, peak demand management, and renewable energy firming. If you'd like to hear the remainder of this story, please contact NFRRS at 716-821-5555, and someone will gladly read it for you. Invasive removal. Everwild Land Trust volunteers remove water chestnut from outlet. An article by John Whitaker. Earlier in the summer, the nonprofit was on the forefront of efforts to remove starry stonewort from the lake. Now, Everwild Land Trust volunteers are dealing with a large amount of water chestnut in the outlet near Celeron. So far this summer, we have conducted 3 aquatic invasive species surveys and 1 water chestnut pull in Chautauqua Lake with the help of Western New York Prism, the Everwild Land Trust said in a Facebook post earlier this week. Visibility has been a challenge due to algal blooms, making surveys difficult. We haven't found any concerning species in any of the surveys, but did find a large amount of water chestnut in the outlet. We've removed some of the water chestnut patch and plan to pull the rest later in the season. Water chestnut is an aquatic invasive plant that is native to Eurasia and Africa. It was introduced in the United States in the 1800s as an ornamental plant. Water chestnut colonizes shallow areas of freshwater lakes and ponds and slow-moving streams and rivers, and negatively impacts aquatic ecosystems and water recreation. It's located in 40 counties in New York State and has been found in Chautauqua Lake watershed for nearly 20 years. Water chestnut plants form dense mats of vegetation that are rooted in the sediment at the bottom of the water body, growing all the way to the surface of the water. They produce fruits that have very sharp spines with barbs. These travel downstream spreading seeds and can be found on the bottom of waterways along the shoreline. For the past several years, Everwild Land Trust, with funding assistance from the Chautauqua Lake and Watershed Management Alliance, has held a series of public programs focused on these invasive plants. Targeted education and outreach efforts have helped the Everwild Land Trust volunteers in the identification of invasive species through online and in-person training sessions. In 2025, CWC conducted 13 on-water surveys across 10 sites, which confirmed the extent of the two historic starry stonewort sites, led to the discovery of the brittle naiad in two locations, identified the current extent of water chestnut in Chautauqua Lake outlet. During a public paddle on the Chautauqua River, 400 water chestnut plants were removed, while a number of potential hotspot sites were monitored to ensure no new threats were developing. There's a picture of some Everwild volunteers with 3 bags of harvested water chestnut. Panama reminds residents to watch for Amish community following accident. The Village of Panama is looking to remind residents to keep an increased Amish presence in the village, especially following an accident involving a buggy a few weeks ago that resulted in no serious injuries, fortunately. Mayor William Schneider noted the increased presence of Amish during the August meeting of the village board. We have a growing population and people need to be aware of that, Schneider said. We have a buggy accident just south of the Four Corners. Luckily, Schneider said, there were no serious injuries, and the Panama Fire Department were able to respond quickly, check everyone out, and keep the traffic down while getting everything taken care of. He noted increased presence is because of more members of the Amish community moving into the village. We want them to feel welcome and to have everybody safe, Schneider said. The accident was a few weeks ago, still in the daylight hours, but towards evening, Schneider said. He thought the family had gone to get ice cream and the accident was on their way home. Like I said, nobody was hurt, and the fire department responded quickly and efficiently and made sure that everyone was okay. So thanks to the Panama Fire Department for taking care of our residents that way. Fredonia woman charged after thefts from nursing home patients. A Fredonia woman has been charged after months-long investigation into the theft of funds from nursing home patients. Around April 22nd, Chautauqua County Sheriff's Office investigators received a complaint regarding the issue at a facility in the town of Dunkirk. Investigators later charged Stacy Fidali, 45, with third-degree grand larceny and first-degree falsifying business records. It is alleged that over the course of several years, Fidali had stolen in excess of $11,000 in funds from multiple patients. It also alleged that she destroyed records of the facility in order to help conceal the larceny of patient funds. A warrant arrest was applied for out of the town of Dunkirk court. On Wednesday, Fidali turned herself in and was arraigned at Chautauqua County Jail centralized arraignment programs on the charges. 2 charged with possession of stolen guns in Carroll. This is an article from the Post-Journal staff. Carroll, a complaint of someone firing guns too close to a home in Carroll resulted in charges against 2 Jamestown men. On Sunday, Carroll police officers responded to an address on Page Road for a complaint of firearms being discharged too close to a residence. Upon arrival, officers found 2 men identified as Jonathan Marrero Rosario, 20, and Joshua D. Tolliver, 23, both of Jamestown, each in possession of handguns. Neither man, according to the police report, had a valid pistol permit. The handguns had allegedly been reported stolen, police said, with all the handgun magazines in possession of Rosario and Tolliver also allegedly exceeding the legal capacity in New York State. Rosario and Tolliver were each charged with a violation of state environmental conservation law statute of discharging a firearm within 500 feet of a dwelling, second-degree criminal possession of a weapon, 4 counts of third-degree criminal possession of a weapon, second-degree criminal use of a firearm, and fourth-degree criminal possession of stolen property. Rosario and Tolliver were both taken to the county jail for centralized arraignment. You have been listening to a reading of articles and features from recent issues of the Jamestown Post-Journal. We read from the Jamestown Post-Journal every Saturday at 6 p.m. Your reader has been P. Fitz. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the Niagara Falls Review. At 8 o'clock, we have Off Duty from the Wall Street Journal. And at 9 o'clock, we have Sports Illustrated. Stay with us for these readings and more. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which